Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to continue with our study in paper 9. We're in section 2, paragraph 4. We'll say a little prayer and we'll get started here. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight that we might study this beautiful revelation, that we might share it with each other and our friends and those that we come to know, that we might learn more about you and try to do your will in our lives. Pray that you'll bless this meeting, keep our hearts and minds open, and we say this in the name of your son Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen. Joshua, Yahshua, and Joseph. Okay, dear, you want to start out?
In addition to these paradise presences, Urantians benefit by the spiritual influences and activities of the local and the super universe, with their almost endless array of loving personalities who ever lead the truth of purpose and the honest of heart upward and inward towards the ideals of divinity and the goal of supreme perfection.
Try this again. And this is the local circuit that we've read over many times. Now remember, last time we were talking about the spiritual forces and the material power linking Urantia directly with the paradise deities, and they were talking about the the 4 circuits, and then now they're talking about the local universe circuits, right? And the myriads of personalities that help the infinite spirit and help us out, and that's part of the infinite spirits or the local universe mother spirit's job, right? Okay, Bill, would you take the next one, please?
Sure. The presence of the universal spirit of the eternal Son we know. We can unmistakably recognize it. The presence of the infinite spirit, the third person of deity, even mortal man may know, for material creatures can actually experience the beneficence of this divine influence, which functions as the Holy Spirit of local universe bestowal upon the races of mankind. Human beings can also, in some degree, become conscious of the adjuster, the impersonal presence of the universal Father. These divine spirits, which work for man's uplifting and spiritualization, all act in unison and in perfect cooperation. They are as one in the spiritual operation of the plans of mortal ascension and perfection attainment.
This is interesting because this paragraph starts out saying that the presence of the universal spirit, the eternal Son, we know, we can unmistakably recognize it. Why is that, you reckon? It's because they are spirit beings, right? So they are totally convinced, because they recognize the eternal Son because they're spirit personalities also. And remember, the eternal Son controls the spirit circuit. Okay, then they go on to tell us that the infinite spirit we can know in our lives just like they know the eternal Son in their spirit life world, right? And we can do this through whom? The Holy Spirit of the local universe mother spirit. All right, and we can also know this when we become more conscious of the adjuster and the presence of the universal Father in our lives, right? It teaches us that if we strive for it long enough, even in this life, we can ascertain that the Father is speaking to us, okay, which is pretty special, right? That's part of that prayer and meditation we were talking about, Melly was talking about the other day, right?
So, hey, Roger.
Yeah.
When they say the presence of the universal spirit, it's kind of like saying that the eternal Son is just a little bit more personal than the universal Father.
Well, yeah, he is. He is a little more personal. He's one down stepping from the Father. The Father is more far off. So
correct.
We will recognize the eternal Son long before we do the Father. Oh, let me show y'all something too. Can y'all see that on your screen, dear?
Yes.
Okay. This is the main page of Fifth Epical. It's exactly the same thing for the Atlanta Urantia Study Group. And I wanted to show you all this. On the first page, I put Tuesday's message on the top. You see that? Now I'm going to start putting Thursday's message right underneath it each week, right after we do it. Okay, I'll do it on Friday mornings. That way, both of them will be on the site for an entire week. Because doing Tuesdays and Thursdays, if I take Tuesdays down, it won't be there but just a day and a half, right? So I wanted to show you all that. This is on the main page. So these papers, Tuesdays and Thursday papers, are going to be right on the main page. Tuesdays on top, Thursdays on the bottom.
That's very nice because you can download them.
That's right. You can download them right there. All the links for downloading, all the different definitions, and the MP3 is right here too, right? You can also go to YouTube from right here and watch it, right? On both of them. So I wanted to point that out to y'all so y'all know they were there. I just added that yesterday.
So, Roger,
Yeah.
the presence of the universal spirit of the eternal Son, would that be considered the spirit of truth?
No, that's not considered
No.
the spirit of truth, Rodney, because the personality of the eternal Son is totally separate from the spirit of truth. The spirit of truth comes from the eternal Son, but that's not the spirit of the eternal Son. It's the circuit of the eternal Son, which is a difference. What they're talking about recognizing is the actual personality presence of the eternal Son, because they're spirit beings, right? And we don't really recognize the personality presence of the eternal Son, and we won't until we get to the rings of Vavona, right? When we get to the rings of Vavona, the universal or the teachers there will teach us how to recognize not only the third source and center, but also how to recognize the eternal Son before the Father, because we have to recognize the eternal Spirit first, and then the Son second, and then the Father. That's the order in which you recognize the deities.
So, hey, Roger, when they say the universal spirit, it's in reference to the eternal Son, or is it the universal Father?
No, the universal spirit they're talking about is
The circuit?
no, the third source and center.
Okay, right. Okay.
Okay. That's just one of the names for the third source and center. Okay.
That's correct. Thank you.
All right. All right. Let's see, Rodney, would you take the next one? Number 3.
Yes, 3, the universal manipulator. Sounds mechanical.
Sounds like a chiropractor, doesn't
Yeah, it does.
it?
Or a brain
Yeah.
surgeon.
The owl of paradise is the source and substance of physical gravity. And that should be sufficient to inform you that gravity is one of the most real and eternally dependable things in the whole physical universe of universes. Gravity cannot be modified or annulled except by the forces and energies conjointly sponsored by the Father and the Son, which have been entrusted to and are functionally associated with the person of the third source and center.
You see there how the third source and center controls gravity that comes from paradise? You see that? Only the third source and center has the anti-gravity endowment, which it can assign to the support personnel, right, of the infinite spirit. But it's only the third source and center that can do that and control paradise gravity.
So, hey, Roger, what exactly, you're talking about physical gravity that's
Right,
bestowed out of the eternal owl of paradise.
right.
So basically that's, in that evolution of, things getting started like a wheel, it starts, things start to go in motion, and then obviously we have those personalities. But when you say paradise gravity, that's then their physical gravity, because they also use gravity too as the 4 present circuits.
Yeah, they do, but they're talking about a physical gravity here.
That's
And they're
bestowed
not
from.
talking,
Mhm.
there's several different types of gravity. There's the paradise gravity, right? And then there's a 7 super universe gravity. Well, there's Habona gravity. I skipped over that. Then the 7 super universe gravities. And then there's the local universe gravity. And then we also have our local planetoid system gravity of our sun. So there's gravity on different levels, and it's the infinite spirit that sends out its personnel to control these gravity with anti-gravity. Okay, and we're going to find that out in the next sentence, right? Because it says right here, gravity cannot be modified, annulled, except by the forces and energies conjointly sponsored by the Father and Son, which have been entrusted to whom? The third force in the center. So it's only the Father and the Son that can control these gravities, and they do that through the third source and center, right?
Okay, thank you.
Right. Now, the next one, let's see. Rodney, did you just read? You did, didn't you? Tim, would you take the next one?
The infinite spirit possesses a ununique and amazing power.
No, a unique.
Oh, and yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This little square thing, this little box, I gotta move it because it won't shrink any smaller. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Possess a ununique and amazing power, anti-gravity. This power is not functionally observable, present in either the Father or the Son. This ability to withstand the pull of material gravity inherent in the third source is revealed in the personal reactions of the conjoint actor to certain phases of universe relationships. And this ununique attribute is transmissible to certain of the higher personalities of the infinite spirit.
Okay, so the infinite spirit can assign anti-gravity to her personnel, and those come from the 7 spirits, right, that are on paradise. And they send out mechanical controllers and all the beings that go out and control gravity, both the physical aspects and the gravity of paradise itself,
Oh,
right?
hey, Roger, when you have scientists today in the 21st century say that, the very common theme is that there's no God because, of gravity. But to answer that question, we know that the eternal isle of paradise is the bestower of physical gravity. And
Right.
then, those personalities go out, like it just talked about, third source and center, etc., like the master physical controllers, they have to work with it. So there's no such thing as, just, gravity just took off by itself, that common argument that they claim.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, let me show y'all something, a little something here. Hang on. Let me go back over here just a second. I don't want to get too far off on this. Let's see here. This is the 7 master spirits, right? All right. And the 7 master spirits controls everything, both the physical energies of the universe, right? And they do this. See this picture right here? See this little being? This is one of the 7 master spirits, and it controls everything in this super universe. And it does this first through the 7 supreme executives and the 7 master spirits. But this is what I wanted to show you. The 7 master spirits assigns the supreme power directors. You see this? All right. The 7 supreme power directors have entities underneath them also, right? And that's the way that power is put out to the super universes. That's the way that all energy is put out to everything that's alive, everything material in the master universe. It comes through these 7 supreme power directors, and they come from whom? The 7 master spirits, right? All right, so all this stuff, and here's a good example of this. All right, so you have the Supreme Power Center Supervisor for universe number 7. You see this one right here? That's us. Okay, so he has a Supreme Power Director, right? And then there's a Supreme Center that helps control. See, there's personnel all the way down through the universes. And all these beings answer to whom do you think? There's more. Unclassified centers, system centers. See this local universe power center? Same thing, right? That's our local universe. There's constellation centers. There's minor sector centers. They even have unclassified centers because we don't know, didn't tell us about them, you know? So there's lots of ways that the infinite spirit controls all this stuff, right? Tons of millions and millions and millions of beings. So do you think that all the planets just naturally go around the 7 super universes like they think are supposed to? No, they don't. There's somebody in control, a personality in control of everything that moves in all 7 super universes. And that's the point I want to make. Now, this is what these paragraphs are talking about. It's only the conjoint actor that can give these beings what they need, anti-gravity, to do their job. Okay, and if you understand that, you understand what runs all the 7 super universes. Now, when these scientists like Tim was just talking about, when these scientists say there is no God, it's because they're on ignorance. Okay, number one, they don't realize it's God that controls all this. All this stuff doesn't happen on its own. There's beings that make this stuff happen. There's certain rules, laws of the universe that are laws of God the Father that makes things happen. What is a number one law of the universe? Gravity. Okay, that comes from whom? God the Father and God the Son through paradise. So that is a law. You can't change it. Now,
And
the anti-gravity is doled out according to the wisdom of whom? The third source and center, right? Keeps everything from running into each other.
what
Keeps
is
everything
anti-gravity?
Huh?
What is anti-gravity? Gravity that's already been controlled?
It nullifies gravity temporarily.
Okay.
Okay.
And what does annul mean?
It shuts it off, basically. Okay. It shuts off the gravity so that the bodies of space remain where they're supposed to be. Okay. Now, you want a good example of anti-gravity in our lives? And you're going to say, what? We have anti-gravity in our lives? A gyroscope. A gyroscope shows us how anti-gravity works. If you want to, if you got time, go look up the functioning of a gyroscope. And that's what they're talking about here. A gyroscope you can put in an airplane, you can put in a boat, you can put in a spaceship. A gyroscope allows you to know where you are at all times. Okay, so who is our gyroscope?
The third source and center?
The third source and center. That's right.
You know, it was
She knows,
also.
he knows where we are, everybody in the universe, where it is at all times.
It was also a primary Leonardodeck who said, you know, against physical gravity, if you read paper 53 in the Lucifer Rebellion.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to the next one. And did you just read, Tim, or is
Yes.
Okay. Millie, would you take the next one? 933. Listen, here it is right here in the next paragraph, the gyroscope. All right, go ahead, Millie.
Anti-gravity can annul gravity within a local frame. It does so by the exercise of equal force presence. It operates only with reference to material gravity, and it is not the action of mind. The gravity-resistant phenomenon of a gyroscope is a fair illustration of the effect of anti-gravity, but of no value to illustrate the cause of anti-gravity.
It'll show us how the effect of anti-gravity, but it didn't show us the cause of anti-gravity. Never, no, because we know the cause is whom? The third source and center.
So
That's right.
anti-gravity means stop gravity.
Yeah. See, this is what I get for reading the lessons so many times ahead of time. So like today, I didn't get a chance to review this for tonight's lesson because I know this stuff's so cold. I just go in and teach it. But that's a good example where I give you an example and it's in the next paragraph. Remember, Millie, we used to do this in the meetings all the time.
I know, isn't the most fascinating
We find
fascinating
out
thing?
that one thing follows another. If you just
That's right.
shut up and listen, it'll
Yeah.
come.
Yeah.
I found that so many times you ask a question and the next paragraph, there it is. There's your answer.
Answers the
They
question.
understood that when they wrote this for us. They understood that.
They did.
That they'll bring up something that we'll have questions about. So the next paragraph, they explain what they just talked about.
Yeah. Diane, will you take the next
The
one?
book
So,
is,
Roger,
Bingo.
it's made that way.
Roger,
Yeah.
because the infinite spirit can nullify gravity, and it's saying it's the manipulator.
Right.
Well, obviously, the infinite spirit can also attenuate gravity.
That's right. And it
Not
does this, it's important to
maximum.
understand it does this through its personnel down the line, right? He don't have to do it personally himself. He
Correct.
allows his, he delegates.
Administration.
Yeah, he delegates that responsibility to other beings, right? All right.
Oh, by the way, I looked up the word annulled, and it says it is declared invalid.
Yeah.
And if a contract or an election is annulled, it is declared invalid, so that legally it is considered never to have existed.
They
Thank
do
you,
that a
Phil.
lot with
We
do
hear-
that a lot with marriages, right?
Yeah, we hear that word a lot with
Yeah.
marriage.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
we do.
Marriage annulled.
Yeah.
Annulled.
All right, dear, would you take the next one, please?
Still further does a conjoint actor display powers which can transcend force and neutralize energy, slowing down energy to the point of materialization, and by other techniques unknown to you.
So the way the conjoint actor does this many times is to slow down the energy. How do they slow down the energy? They slow down the electrical molecules, the rotations of the molecules. Okay, so they slow down the energy almost to the point where what they're working on will become material rather than morontial or spiritual. You see that? And that's important. And by other the techniques unknown to us. So we know the conjoint actor can actually on the cellular level slow down the atoms so that they would almost become material. Does that make sense?
Boy, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow.
All
I mean,
right.
being able to slow down the electrons. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you slow them down enough, it becomes a rock.
Material. Yeah, that's right. It materializes, right? Because it's not moving anymore. Bill, would you take the next one?
Sure. The conjoint creator is not energy, nor the source of energy, nor the destiny of energy. He is the manipulator of energy. The conjoint creator is action, motion, change, modification, coordination, stabilization, and equilibrium. The energies subject through the direct or indirect control of paradise are by nature responsive to the acts of this third source and center and his manifold agencies.
Now, where does that start? That starts with primordial matter, okay? And the
Yeah.
architects of the master universe, okay? So that's the basis of all this, all right? So he controls the energy that's there, right?
And that's in reference to primordial matter.
Right, right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's go on to the next one. Rodney, would you take the next one?
The universe of universes is permeated by the power control creatures of the third source and center. Physical controllers, power directors, power centers, and other representatives of the God of action, who have to do with the regulation and stabilization of physical energies. These unique creatures of physical function all possess varying attributes of power control, such as anti-gravity, which they utilize in their efforts to establish the physical equilibrium of the matter and energies of the grand universe.
That's the picture I just showed you just a minute ago, all these beings, okay? And you can read at great length about this in the seven master spirits, right? The paper on the seven master spirits. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to that paper and tell you a little bit more about this. All
Hey,
right?
Roger, when they say anti-gravity, they're not subject to that pull. They can move freely about and they're not being pulled away.
No, they're not.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, Tim, would you take the next one?
Okay, let me scroll on down. All these matters, is that where?
Yeah, all these
okay.
material activities.
Okay, yeah. All these material activities of God, of action, no, of the God of action appear to relate his function to the Isle of Paradise. And indeed, the agencies of power are all regardful of, even dependent on, the absoluteness of the eternal Isle. But the conjoint actor does not act for or in response to paradise. He acts personally for the Father and the Son. Paradise is not a person. The non-personal, impersonal, and otherwise not personal doings of the third source and center are all volitional acts of the conjoint actor himself. They are not reflections, deviations, or repercussions of anything or anybody.
Okay, so it starts on the beginning of this telling us that the Isle of Paradise is what? Not dependent on anything or anybody. It's an absolute. You remember the chart, the seven absolutes? So paradise is an absolute. The conjoint actor personally acts for the Father and the Son. But paradise isn't a person, is it? It's a thing.
It's non-personal.
It's non-personal, right? And so the non-personal beings of the third source and center is because of his volitional act. What does that mean? That means that's because it's his own will that he acts, and he does it for himself, not a reflection or anything anybody else tells him to do, right? He does it for his own volition. Okay. Millie, would you take the next one?
Paradise is the pattern of infinity. The God of action is the activator of that pattern. Paradise is the material fulcrum of infinity. The agencies of the third source and center are the levelers of intelligence, which motivate the material level and inject spontaneity into the mechanism of the physical creation.
Okay, so if you think as paradise as the fulcrum and the third source and center as a lever, okay, that's what they're talking about here. Paradise is a pattern. The God of action is the activator of that pattern. Okay, so the material fulcrum, which is paradise, stands there just like it is. And all the things that come out of paradise are permanent. There's no change in them, right? They're just what they are. But it's the third source and center that acts as a lever of intelligence to move and motivate material and inject spontaneity in the mechanisms of the physical creation. So it's actually the third source and center that takes this absolute and makes it useful in the 7 super universes in Havana. Okay, so without the third source and center, paradise would just be paradise. It's not like anything else, right? It would just be matter. Okay,
Roger,
yeah.
it's hard for me to imagine the Trinity or the Father and Son coming together and then it creates paradise.
Uh-huh.
Something that's not personal,
Not
whereas they
personal.
are personal.
Well, you know, it's
It's something
interesting.
that's material, whereas
Yeah.
they are spiritual.
Well, you have to remember
I just
too,
can't
Rodney, that paradise was created the same time the eternal Son was. So I think of it as just like this, and it's maybe right and it may not be right. But when God created the eternal Son, he had to have a dwelling place for the eternal Son because he was a separate deity from himself, right?
Correct.
In other words, he split himself, really. That's the best way I can explain it, is God the Father split himself and the Son was created, right? But in order to do that, at the same time, God the Father had to create what? A dwelling place for his Son. And that's why paradise
Hey,
came
Rodney,
at the
keep,
same
keep,
time
yeah.
as his Son. Now, Havana was if you think about it, Havana was the playground. That's the best way I can say it, of the eternal Son and the infinite Spirit, right? If you think about it. So during the Trinitization process, when God the Father and God the Son came together and Trinitized, the Trinitization of that those two Trinitized beings, the the conjoint act that erupted from this Trinitization. And at the same time of this eruption, what happened? Havana appeared at the same time.
Hey, Rodney, I'd just like to tell you that keep in mind that spirit beings do not dwell in nebulous space. Material spheres are actually created. So when you have the Father and the Son creating the eternal Isle of Paradise, the reason why they did that was because it's kind of like a machine that has a function.
Yeah, it's got a function. It's a dwelling place for the Son and the Spirit, right?
But
So-
yet before the Son and the Spirit, there was not paradise.
That's
It was
right.
just the Father,
It was just the
which
Father,
is spirit.
which is spirit, and the Father did not require a dwelling place. That's hard for us to understand.
Exactly.
That was my
It
question.
really
He
is.
did
The
not have a
Father,
dwelling-
say
did
that
God
again,
have-
Millie?
He did not have a dwelling place.
Pardon me, Millie?
He did not have a dwelling place. He did not need a dwelling place.
He did not need a dwelling place. That's right. That's why he said he's called the I am. He
That's
is, I
because-
am that I am. He is, regardless of what else is out there, including paradise, the Son, the Spirit, and all the universes, regardless of what's out there, the Father is the one source of everything. So he didn't have to have a dwelling place. Okay? Only when he created the Son was a dwelling place required. They had to have a dwelling place then.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Thought doesn't necessarily need a dwelling place.
No, it doesn't.
Because, we go back to the church, and number one, the universal Father is thought,
Yeah.
the eternal Son is word,
Mhm.
and the conjoined actor is action.
Yeah. So the thought by itself is still the thought by itself. And that's why they call him the father of everything and the
Right.
first source and center. He existed before everything else did.
I
throughout
always like to
eternity.
refer to it as, you first existed in the thoughts of God.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's keep going. Did we just do 3:8? Yeah, we did. Okay. Dear, would you take the next one, the absolute mind?
4, the absolute mind. There is an intellectual nature of the third source and center that is distinct from his physical and spiritual attributes. Such a nature is hardly contactable, but it is associable intellectually, though not personally. It is distinguishable from the physical attributes and the spiritual character of the third person on mind levels of function. But to the discernment of personalities, this nature never functions independently of physical or spiritual manifestations.
Now, what can you compare this to? You can compare it to that paragraph we just read a minute ago where the person writing this paper said, we know and recognize the Son. Remember that? Okay. That's what they're talking about, the third source and center. We can know and intellectually recognize the third source and center totally distinct from his physical and spiritual attributes, okay, as a separate entity. But you would not be able to contact it if you just knew that, nothing else, right? But through his physical self and his spiritual attributes, his personality, right? He is associable. We can intellectually know him, but not personally. Why can we not personally know him? Because he permeates everything all the time, just like God the Father. So it would be say that we know God the Father. In reality, we really don't, right? God the Father is always going to be the Father separate from us, right?
There's always a
We
downstepping.
live
That's
and move and have our being within God the Father, right? Think of it this way. Why do you think a thought adjuster has to come to beings? Because that is the only way that we can meld with God the Father, right? That thought adjuster is a father fragment. When we fuse with that father fragment, we become part of what? The family of God, much like the Son of God is, right? Just like Jesus.
so, hey, Roger, it's kind of like saying, we can know the Father, but we can't know everything about the Father.
There's no way, we never will.
No way.
Right?
I totally agree.
Yeah. All right. Bill, would you take the next one?
Sure. The absolute mind is the mind of the third person. It is inseparable from the personality of God the Spirit. Mind in functioning beings is not separated from energy or spirit or both. Mind is not inherent in energy. Energy is receptive and responsive to mind. Mind can be superimposed upon energy, but consciousness is not inherent in the purely material level. Mind does not have to be added to pure spirit, for spirit is innately conscious and identifying. Spirit is always intelligent, minded in some way. It may be this mind or that mind. It may be pre-mind or supermind, even spirit mind. but it does the equivalent of thinking and knowing. The insight of spirit transcends, supervenes, and theoretically antedates the consciousness of mind.
Boy, there is so much in this paragraph. You could spend a month on it, analyze it. You really could.
Yeah.
All right, let me try to break this down the best way I can in my little feeble mind. All
Yeah,
right.
People are going to
hinting
ask
on
you,
this in
Roger,
the
what is
previous
mind?
paragraph.
Yeah. Never mind. No.
What is mind, Roger?
Do you mind if I get on with this?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Mind. Let's take this one section of this sentence at a time. All right. First of all, let me state that we are not our minds. Okay. What? We are not our minds. Our physical domain is a physical domain. Okay. Without the superimposition of mind, we are nobody. Does that make sense? You have to superimpose mind on the physical mechanism for the physical mechanism to have consciousness. Okay? Without consciousness, you're not alive. You're just a mess of cells moving around at a certain force, and you can go on that way like a vegetable indefinitely. As long as they keep pumping your blood and they keep the electrical signals going through your body, you'll keep function from here on out until all the cells die. Okay?
But personality,
That is not who we are, right?
yeah, personality is what we are.
Personality. Now, who
Right.
gives us mind and who gives us personality?
The infinite spirit gives us mind, and the universal Father bestows personality.
Bingo.
Bingo.
Okay. So let's start with the beginning of this sentence again. The absolute mind is the mind of the third person. So the mind that controls all mind matter. I don't know if that's a real word, mind matter. I'd say the mind
is now.
circuit. All control of the mind circuit comes from whom? The third person, right? And it is inseparable from the personality of God the Spirit. That is, God the Spirit is the conjoint actor, right? So the mind circuit is inseparable from God the Spirit. You can't take it away from him, and you can't have mind without him. So if God the Spirit died, all intelligence in the universe would cease to exist, right? Because he controls the mind spirit.
So,
right.
Roger, before you go further,
Yeah.
the difference between a physical brain and mind. I realize the brain controls the body,
The body, right?
but is it also like an antenna for the mind?
Yeah, if you think about it, it's the plug for the mind. If you think of an electrical socket, okay? The brain is the electrical socket for the mind to plug into. So you take personality and intelligence and put it into that brain. Now, does it have to have a mind for the brain to function? No. The brain can function, like I said, indefinitely without mind and without personality. Okay.
Correct.
It does not have consciousness, though. Why does it not have consciousness? Because it doesn't have a mind. Okay. It's not until you give it mind that you have consciousness. Okay. And let me read through the rest of this one sentence. And this is what it says right here. Mind is not inherent in energy. What's energy? Energy is the functioning of human, part of it is the functioning of the human body, right? So mind is not inherent in energy, but energy is receptive and responsive to mind. So when you put mind on connected into it, then it becomes responsive. So then it says mind must be superimposed on energy. You see that? Okay. And that's what gives us what? consciousness. It says here, but consciousness is not inherent in purely material levels. That's what I just said. You can have a functioning body, a working brain, everything functioning the way it's supposed to, but until you give it mind, it has no consciousness, right? Now,
Hey, Roger. Oh, go ahead.
let me finish this thought before you interrupt me. What is a being without consciousness?
Sort of like a trauma patient who
Trauma
gets hit in
patient,
the
that's
head.
perfect
robot?
example. Or someone that's a vegetable,
A
right?
Correct.
robot.
A
A
stroke
robot?
victim.
A
A
There you
robot.
stroke
go.
victim.
Stroke victim can many times become unconscious, right? All right, let's go on. Oh, did you want to ask a question, Tim, before we went on?
Would you like to hear some page numbers for the word mind in
No,
the
they
Urantia book?
can hit
Okay,
any
that's
of these
fine.
links
Okay, that's fine.
and go out and see
Sure.
all the
Okay.
references to it. All right. Mind does not have to be added to pure spirit. What are they telling us here? Mind doesn't have to be added to spirit. The spirit circuit's totally different. Okay. The spirit, when it's created, when spirit beings are created, they are innately conscious and identifying. Why is that? Because they're already endowed with intelligence. Okay. They don't need the mind circuit. All right. It says here that spirit is always intelligence and minded in some way. It comes that way. So the mind does not have to be superimposed on spirit. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
All right.
So mind, Roger, it's not just the intellectual within the human organism. It's a
Right.
spirit circuit,
It's a circuit.
a
That's
circuit.
right.
Okay,
It's
thank
a
you.
circuit. All right. And then it goes on to tell us it may be this mind, it may be that mind. It may be pre-mind or supermind, or even what? Spirit mind. But it does have the equivalent of thinking and knowing. So spirit beings, just like Urantia beings, just like material beings, have to have the spirit pre-mind or supermind or some kind of mind or the equivalent of that, of thinking and knowing, to become what? Conscious of itself, right? It has to have this to say, I am that I am. I know who I am. My friends know who I am. And when I meet them next time, they'll say, hi, Roger, I know who you are, right? Even if I get ugly and my hair falls out and I don't have a face anymore, or my legs fall off and my arms fall off, my friends will know me by how? My personality,
Hmm.
right? Think of this. Think of the Wounded Warriors program. Okay, these guys come back sometimes with no arms and no legs, sometimes with no of both, none of both, but their brains and who they are, their personality, are still exactly like they were when they left. Okay, so when they come back, we have to treat them just as if nothing happened to them, on top of what? Making sure they're taken care of. That's our responsibility. They go out and fight for our country, so it becomes our responsibility to take care of them when they come back, right?
Yes.
That's the way it works.
I
Now,
have a,
Rodney,
yeah.
when Caitlin gets up every morning and y'all have to go in and do all the things you do, and I know there's just tons of them. Do you do that because you have to? No, you don't. You do that because you love her, right? You do that because she's got consciousness. She's got personality, all right? It's the same thing. We don't have to be perfect beings with everything functioning to be minded and loved by our fellow man, do we? It should be the least thing we think about. Okay, so let's go
Roger,
on. Yeah.
along our progression, like once we become, do we ever become pure spirit,
We become spirit beings. I wouldn't call it
but
pure
not
spirit.
pure spirit?
Yeah, I would call it spirit beings, spirit
So,
entities, really more than anything.
So spirit beings, do they work off the same mind that we do?
Yes, or they can be created. See, we grow into being spirit beings, but some spirit beings are created, manifested, or eventuated complete with all their mindedness intact when they are created,
Okay.
right? Us being mortals, we're going to grow into being spirit minded, right?
They don't they don't have
Which
to
is
plug
different.
in.
No,
They just are.
they just are. That's right. Now, remember, as we grow, our experience goes along with us, right? So we are experiential spirit beings when we get there, okay? The spirit beings don't always have to be experiential, do they? Okay.
Hmm.
So there's lots of different types of intelligence in the universe, all right? But it tells us here in this sentence, but it does the equivalent, the spirit mindedness of thinking and knowing. In other words, if it thinks and knows, it's a conscious mind, right? All right. And then it says the inside of spirit transcends, supervenes, and theoretically antedates the consciousness of mind. In other words, the consciousness of the spirit being is replaced by spirit identification or spirit mindedness. Okay. But it's still what? A conscious being, right? Conscious of mind. Now, the interesting point of all this paragraph is this: you can't separate all types of beings, finite, Urantia, or spiritual. You can't separate those from what? This personality of God the Spirit, and that is the mind circuit, right? So all these beings, all these type of beings, pre-spirits, pure spirits, pre-mind, supermind, even spirit mind, they still have to communicate through what? The mind
Infinite
circuit.
spirit.
That's right. Now you got that whole paragraph. Wasn't as bad as it looked, didn't it?
It reminds me of that movie you asked us to check out
Yeah.
right at the end there. That was interesting.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? You know, there's a connection to that mind spirit. All right, let's see if we can get
one thing that just came to my mind is that we as mortals are beginning the evolution of our minds within the cosmos.
Yeah, we are.
And
Anyway,
that's, as we grow spiritually, our minds expand and evolve into being spirit minded. And then finally, we have the mind of God.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Let's get one more paragraph before we quit for tonight. Who's up next? It's either Tim or Millie, I think, isn't it? Tim, you want to take it?
Sure. But I just want to say too, I have a lot of love and respect for our veterans. I call them heroes.
Yeah, they are our heroes. Yeah.
God love them. The conjoint creator is absolute only in the domains of mind, in the realms of universal intelligence. The mind of the third source and center is infinite. It utterly transcends the active and functioning mind circuits of the universe of universes. The mind endowment of the 7 super universes is derived from the 7 master spirits, the primary personalities of the conjoint creator. These master spirits distribute mind to the grand universe as the cosmic mind, and your local universe is pervaded by the Nebadon variant of the Irvanton type of cosmic mind.
So it's the conjoint actor is the absolute of mind, right? In the domain of mind, okay? In the realms of universal intelligence, all right? Seeing that it's infinite, it transcends all active functioning mind circuits of the universe. And it does this through the 7 super universe, through whom? The 7 master spirits and all those beings we talked about it earlier in the night, right? All the primary personalities of the conjoint actor. And it distributes mind to the grand universe, all 7 super universes, as the cosmic mind, and to our local universe as a variant of the Urantian type of cosmic mind. So it's a variant of cosmic mind, but it actually is what? The 7 adjutant mind spirits, right? That's how we get mind. All right, and this is a picture of Master Spirit 1 and how it goes through the reflective spirits and communicates to all the super universe. Now,
Oh, I like how that upper left-hand picture there sort of defines the 3 blue circles.
Concentric circles. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, this breaks down all 7 of the super universes and the combinations thereof. Okay, I got a question for y'all. Y'all want to read through all 3 of these last paragraphs so we can start on the ministry of mind next time?
Sure.
Okay, so Millie, would you do that for us?
Okay. Where did he leave off?
The infinite mind ignores time.
Infinite mind ignores time. Ultimate mind transcends time, and cosmic mind is conditioned by time. And so with space. Infinite mind is independent of space, but as descent is made from the infinite to the adjutant levels of mind, intellect must increasingly reckon with the fact and limitations of space.
All right, hold it right there for just a second, Millie. So the infinite mind takes no account, it ignores time, and it transcends time, but the cosmic mind is conditioned by time because we're time beings, right? Okay, and the same way with space. So the closer you get down to the finite, then the adjutant minds has to completely reckon with the fact that we have limitations of time and space. All right, go on, Millie.
Cosmic force responds to mind even as cosmic mind responds to spirit. Spirit is divine purpose, and spirit mind is divine purpose in action. Energy is thing, mind is meaning, spirit is value. Even in time and space, mind establishes those relative relationships between energy and spirit, which are suggestive of mutual kinship in eternity.
And that's how we connect to the spirit life, right? Cosmic mind responds to the spirit. So as we become more and more spirit, it transmute this energy, this thing of mind, into meaning, and that meaning, which in spirit terms is value, right?
Things, meanings, and values.
Things, meanings, and values. Okay, Melly, take that last little paragraph there.
Mind transmutes the values of spirit into the meaning of intellect. Volition has power to bring the meanings of mind to fruit in both the material and spiritual domains. The paradise ascent involves a relative and differential growth in spirit, mind, and energy. The personality is the unifier of those components, experiential individually.
I think, therefore I am, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's saying here. I think, therefore I am. Mind translates the value, transmutes the values of spirit into meanings of intellect and free will. Volition brings meanings of mind into fruition in our material and spiritual domains. So it's the mind that controls both the physical and the spiritual, right? And it also does what? It involves a relative and differential growth in spirit, mind, and energy. And it's the personality, our individual personalities, that unifies all these components into experiential individuality. So that's how we get our experience. Pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, that's funny you say that, because Rene Descartes, 1637, in Latin, cogito ergo sum. I think,
Therefore
I
I am.
am.
That's right. That's right. All right. That was a pretty good meeting tonight. I think we got.
You know, they also say, mind, thinking, perceiving, and feeling mechanism of the human organism technique whereby spirit realities become experiential to creature personalities, organized consciousness. I love that word, organized consciousness, not wholly subject to material gravity. Boy, that's beautiful.
It is.
Wow.
And remember, there was a book came out a couple years ago about The Secret. It's called. Y'all remember that?
Mm-hmm.
The Secret. They talk about everything. If your mind can conceive it, you can believe it, then you can bring it into fruition in your life. And that's pretty much what they're telling us here, is it not? If you can think it and you believe it enough, then it can happen in your life. And that's what we need to teach our children. Our children can be anything they want. Don't let these people tell you in school, you can't do this because you're not smart enough. You can't do that because you're not smart enough. I'll tell you, y'all, when I was in grade school, I was not the smartest bulb on the block. It's hard work and determination and applying yourself. You can improve yourself in anything,
Well
anything
said.
at all. Yeah. So anyway, let's have a little prayer and we'll stop the recording then. Let's see who wants to pray for us tonight. Huh? You want to pray, Diane? No, go ahead and let's pray and then we'll stop it. You want to pray tonight, Jim? Okay, well, I'll pray. Father, thank you for this wonderful meeting and thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for these friends we love so much and dearly. We thank you for the opportunity to help sharing this information to the world, that they might learn the importance of this book and how it can change your life forever and how it can start you on your learning pathway to the mansion worlds, that when we get to the mansion worlds, we will be able to train people in this same subjects, right? And I thank you for the opportunity to do this. I feel humbled in the fact that I can even teach this information. It's so difficult, but I thank you for the opportunity to do it. Please stay with us in our meetings and help us learn each day. We thank you and we give you the praise in your son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
Amen.
Stop it, dear.
Amen.